You're going about your ordinary day when something inside you screams, run. You can't explain it. There's no logical reason, but every cell in your body is telling you're in danger. Now imagine ignoring that feeling and becoming the next victim. Welcome to True Crime Explorers. Today I'm counting down 10 real cases where people trusted their gut instinct and it literally saved their lives. These are stories where intuition stood between survival and tragedy. Hit subscribe because after today, you'll never ignore that little voice in your head again. Scientists call it thin slicing, our brain processing thousands of subtle cues faster than our conscious mind can articulate. Today's stories come from police reports and court records where trusting intuition exposed predators and saved lives. Let's count down 10 cases where gut instinct became the ultimate survival tool. 10. The bear that wasn't there. A family was hiking when their young child suddenly became agitated, begging to leave immediately. The parents could have dismissed it as childish anxiety, but something about their child's fear felt urgent. They left. The next morning, rangers discovered an aggressive bear in that exact location. Had they stayed for their planned hike, they might have encountered it at its most dangerous. The lesson? Children's instincts are remarkably accurate. They haven't learned to rationalize away fear. 9. The persistent date. A woman met someone for a first date. Everything seemed normal, but she couldn't shake an uncomfortable feeling. When he suggested continuing the evening elsewhere, that discomfort became alarm. She made excuses and left. Within weeks, he was arrested for assault. Multiple women reported similar patterns, charming at first, then aggressive when they tried to leave. She later realized it was subtle things, how he positioned himself between her and the exit, how he ignored her social cues. The wrong trail. An experienced hiker noticed two men who seemed to be waiting. When she passed them, they smiled. Normal enough. But when the trail looped and she encountered them again in a different location, as if they'd repositioned, her stomach dropped. She turned around and took an alternate route back toward populated areas, walking quickly but deliberately. The following week, authorities issued warnings about suspicious activity on that trail. 2 individuals matching their description were wanted for questioning regarding an assault. 7. The friendly strangers. A teenage girl was walking home when several men from the neighborhood offered her a ride. They seemed friendly. The logical response would be to accept. But something felt off. She lied and said her boyfriend was meeting her in a few minutes. They drove away. Within months, those same men were arrested for violent crimes against women, including assault and attempted murder. The key: predators test boundaries. This young woman's gut feeling recognized the test for what it was. 6. The parking lot abduction. A woman was grabbed in broad daylight and held captive for hours, but instead of panicking, she became hyper-observant. She memorized details, medications in his apartment, names on prescription bottles. She engaged him in conversation, making herself human rather than prey. When her captor left for medication, her instincts screamed, "Now!" She freed herself and ran, providing police with crucial details that led to his quick arrest. Her intuition told her when to stay quiet, when to engage, and when to run. 5. The farmer's market encounter. 2 women were at a farmer's market in Chico, California, when one noticed a man who made her deeply uncomfortable. He wasn't doing anything overtly threatening. She quietly told her companion they needed to leave immediately. Her friend trusted her urgency. Later that day, news broke. The man was wanted for double homicide and actively evading law enforcement. Hit that like button if these stories are compelling. It helps us bring you more survival content. 4. The bar group. A young woman went out with men she'd recently met. The evening started normally, but gradually unease crept in. When they suggested moving locations, her alarm intensified. She made excuses and left early despite their protests. Shortly after, those same men were arrested for rape and murder. The lesson: predators use social pressure to prevent targets from leaving. She prioritized her gut feeling over social obligation. 3. The suspicious delivery. A pizza delivery driver received 2 orders to addresses that made her immediately uncomfortable. The orders were legitimate, but against company policy, she refused both deliveries. Later, police activity in those areas suggested criminal activity. Her intuition, recognizing patterns that triggered alarm, potentially saved her from dangerous situations. Professional experience sharpens intuition. Her brain had data to recognize when something deviated from normal. 2. The frozen intersection. A parent was driving with their child when they approached a green light. Everything appeared normal, but an overwhelming urge made them slam on the brakes. Seconds later, a reckless driver ran the red light at high speed, exactly where their car would have been. The collision would have impacted the passenger side where their child sat. The parent couldn't explain what made them stop, just an inexplicable urge that saved 2 lives. 1. Cara Robinson Chamberlain. June 24th, 2002. 15-year-old Cara Robinson was watering plants at her friend's house in West Columbia, South Carolina, when a man in a green Pontiac pulled up holding magazines. "Are your parents home?" he asked. When Cara explained her friend's mother wasn't home, he approached. In that instant, Cara felt something shift. Then he pulled a gun, pressed it to her neck, and forced her into a storage container in his back seat. The abduction. Richard Mark Evernitz, a serial killer responsible for at least 3 murders, drove Cara to his apartment and held her for 18 hours. Rather than panicking, Cara memorized details, names on prescription bottles, his doctor and dentist on the refrigerator, the apartment layout. She engaged him in conversation, calculated survival strategy. Sheriff Leon Lott later explained, "She was gaining his trust. That's what police negotiators do. She controlled her emotions to develop a plan." While Evernitz slept, Cara's intuition told her, "This is your moment." She freed herself and ran to a parking lot. "My name is Cara Robinson," she told 2 men, handcuffs still dangling from her wrist. "I was kidnapped and just escaped." Using Cara's information, investigators identified Evernitz and discovered evidence linking him to 3 Virginia murders. Sophia Silva, 16, kidnapped in 1996, and sisters Kristin and Kathy Lisk, 15 and 12, who vanished in 1997. Police pursued Evernitz to Florida. Cornered after a high-speed chase, he took his own life. Cara graduated from the Criminal Justice Academy in 2010 and became a school resource officer. Today, she's married with 2 sons and uses her platform to encourage other survivors. She was awarded $150,000 for helping solve the murders and met the victims' families, bringing them closure they'd waited years to receive. Why 1. Cara's initial red flag feeling gave her mental preparation. Her intuition guided every moment, when to stay calm, when to observe, when to escape. At 15, she understood her intuition wasn't just about saving herself, it was about preventing future victims. 10 people who listened when their instincts screamed danger. 10 people alive because they trusted that inexplicable feeling. None could fully articulate why they felt afraid. No checklist, no obvious red flag, just tiny signals their intuition recognized. What we learn. Your brain processes thousands of data points every second. That gut feeling is your subconscious recognizing threats before your rational mind catches up. Security expert Gavin DeBecker calls it the gift of fear. But we've been socialized to ignore it, to be polite, to not make a scene. Trust that feeling. If something feels wrong, you don't need to justify why. Prioritize your safety. Teach children their feelings matter. They never have to stay in uncomfortable situations to avoid hurting adult feelings. Remember, predators rely on your politeness, your hesitation, your self-doubt. Your intuition is what they can't manipulate. Which case stayed with you most? Share your thoughts in the comments. For more survival stories, check out our criminal profiling playlist, subscribe and turn on notifications. New investigations every Tuesday and Friday. Stay safe, stay aware, and trust your gut. It might just save your life.